But my job this evening is to do something that I really enjoy doing, and that is introducing the speaker of the evening. This gentleman, Mark Edward Alston, hails from Los Angeles, picked him up from the airport yesterday just in time before the snow arrived. He's the owner of Skyway Realty and Alston Associates Mortgage Company. But more than that, he is the brainchild of policy as it relates to the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. You will be not only educated, but informed and entertained with his passion and his vigor for this topic, state of housing in Black America. Mark and I don't always agree. Actually, we don't ever agree. But we can have a conversation and walk away still loving each other as brothers, but understanding that we're helping each other educate others. We don't always have to agree, but we always look for the same goal of increasing home ownership in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce you to Mark Edward Alston. My brother.
I'm going to do the state of housing. I'm going to give you a policy report, a synopsis, a truncated version of our State of Housing in Black America 2019 report in a way that hopefully you'll be able to not memorize, but internalize the information that's in here. Now, I come to talk to Black America. Sometimes we need to have an internal conversation about outward things that are affecting our lives and our generations. I welcome everyone else to please pay attention to the conversation so that you might understand what's going on with us and not just view it from a passerby's perspective. I know that this is the top 20% of us. And the 80% of us are out trying to survive as opposed to thrive as most of us do. So I speak for those that don't have a voice a lot of times. So if I can, I'm going to give you the state of housing in Black America. How many of you guys can see the screens? I can't see it, so I'm going to come down on the floor and hopefully I won't get much feedback. Hopefully, but I can't see it. I've got to see it. Now, we should have, Nate, I'm a member of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. I've been a member since my first day in real estate. Why am I a member? I'm a member because I believe that real estate ought to be transformational in my community and not transactional. If you got involved with the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, the organization that speaks to the rights of Black people, whether consumers or professionals in real estate, then you have the opportunity to be transformational as opposed to transactional. If you're transformational, you get to change lives. And the benefit of that will be money in your pocket if you're transformational. So how about we get right into the report? 42.7%. Anybody know what this is? Black home ownership. As of yesterday, it went up 2.1%, right? I got a lot of calls yesterday with people celebrating. I just can't make myself celebrate when other people get a steak and I get a piece of toast. I just can't make myself celebrate. I'm glad it didn't go down, but when you're in the bottom, and when you're at the bottom, and we've been at the bottom for so long, I've seen increases before. December 2018, it was at 42.9%. We had decreases. This is the result of the summer buying season. Third quarters, that's July, August, and September's numbers. This is the result of the summer buying season. It's better up here, but I can't see it. Should say 73.4%. That's white home ownership. That's black home ownership. That's white home ownership. This is the gap between white and black home ownership. This represents the difference, the inequity in wealth. Now, in Chicago, thank you, Ron. In Chicago, home ownership for blacks is 39%. Home ownership for whites is 74%. The gap is 35%. It's larger than the national gap, and the national gap is higher than it's been since 1968, the passing of the Fair Housing Act. It's amazing that prior to 1968, discrimination was illegal, and the gap between white and black home ownership was lower than it is since we have a rule that made discrimination illegal. The gap between black and white home ownership is larger today than in 1968. The home ownership by race, just in case you didn't know. 73.4 is white, Asian is 58.5, Hispanic 47.8, and of course black 42.7. Hispanic went up 1.2% in the third quarter. My contention is that this gap, this inequity in home ownership and subsequent inequity in wealth, the intention of the State of Housing and Black America report is that this is intentional. It's not by accident. It's not happenstance. It's not because black people don't work hard enough, or black people don't try hard enough, or black people don't own a house. It's intentional. Why do I say that? How can you say that? Well, public policy and tradition have served to block access and severely restrict black home ownership opportunity. What do I mean by that? Well, going back to when Major Granger steamed into Galveston Harbor and said that the relationship between the slaves and the slave owner had changed to employer and employee. Going back to then, there's been laws put in place to maintain things as they were. 1878 to 1917, we had racially exclusive zoning laws. In other words, if the block or area was white, black people couldn't live there. And if the block or area was black, white people couldn't live there. This was how it was set up. This is what began to establish the ghetto areas that we still have today, was the racially exclusive zoning laws that were made illegal by a Supreme Court decision in Louisville, came from Louisville, Kentucky, when a black man bought a white man's property with the intention of building a house and living there. When they told him he couldn't live there based on city ordinance, the white guy sued to make him finish the transaction. It got upheld in Kentucky, went to the Supreme Court, and was made illegal. So the zoning laws then became, they still did it. They still tried to do it in various cities around the country. Atlanta had a law where they had R1, R2, and R3, right? Usually R1 means residential single family. But R1 meant residential white, R2 meant residential black. Next, we had private covenants. Private covenants. Some of us know that those are still on the deeds around the country. They just don't show when you see it. Okay, private covenants. When the landowner sold it to the developer, in the contract he said, you can't build and sell it to black people. It was in the contract. Private covenants. Those covenants ran with the land, so they stayed with the property, and they're still on a lot of deeds today. Government redlining. I know a lot of us think that FHA was made for black people. I know we feel that way. 48 to 49% of all mortgages that black people get are FHA loans. We're overrepresented in FHA loans, and guess what? FHA loans cost more. They're a higher cost loan. And we're steered toward that, and we believe that that's the type of loan we can get because it's 3.5% down. There's a conventional 3% down loan. You know, I would encourage all of our lending professionals to not take the easy way out. You know, to work harder to put people into the right loan that fits them for their best advantage for that family. Government redlining, 1934 to 1968. So in 1934, we were just coming out of a recession, right? And we were just coming out of a depression. And there were things that were started, FHA was started prior to HUD to provide liquidity to a mortgage market that was in collapse. White folks got down to 50% homeownership rate. It was a national catastrophe, so they started a brand new program. Guess what? Black folks have never been 50%. Never. Highest we've ever been was 49.1% in 2004. Highest we've ever been. Chicago redlining map. Redlining, you've heard of redlining. Redlining was actually started, it was instituted and authorized by the Federal Home Loan Bank. And they were set up, they hired people, they started a company called the Homeowners Loan Corporation to map the country, and they mapped every city. And what they did with those maps was they graded them. Green meant it was a brand new subdivision, all white. Blue meant an existing housing area, all white. Yellow was mixed and possibly somewhat industrial, and red had blacks and immigrants in it, new immigrants. At this time, most of the new immigration that was frowned on was Italian. This is a part of appraisal from that time. It's two separate lines of appraisal contrasting each other. You'll see one, the security grade is second, and the other one is third. First was best, you got an 80% loan. Second, you got 60 to 80%. If you were third, you got 15% loan to value. And if it was red, no loan. So you'll see down here, if you look down just a little bit, it'll say Negro, yes or no. In the first one, it's no. In the second one, it's yes. The first one is loanable. The second one is no. And it's only no Negroes in the first one and only 1% in the second one. Only 1%. And that took it out of being available for a FHA loan. In Chicago, and all you guys, most of you guys are familiar with this. It's because there were no loans available to black people, and this was a high migration area. This was an area that blacks from the South migrated to, trying to get a better life, but they were stuck into one separate area, and there were no loans available. Whites left the area, but they did not leave their property. They still owned the property, and they left the area, still had ownership. When blacks started wanting to buy the property, they couldn't get a loan, so they did a private contract. The private contract was at a higher interest rate, at a higher cost, and they sold the properties. What else happened was they sold the properties for a higher price. The average price was $12,000, normally $22,000 to black families. There was an estimated $3.2 to $4 billion lost in today's dollars for this activity, just in Chicago. I was talking to a friend of mine from Alabama the other day, and sometimes it takes a good old saying, like my grandmother used to say, bottom sides upwards. You know, a good head start beats fast running. If I give you a head start far enough, I can't catch you. If I give you a good head start, I can't catch you. Let me ask you guys, are you okay? You hearing me? Y'all all right? You should see what I see. I got you. Disparity in today's world. This is average income 2019. Asians are the #1 earning demographic in our country at 91,414. Whites are next at 70,727. Hispanics are next at 51,047. And black families earn 43,966. Less than half of what Asians earn. This is one of the charts that to me, it hits me hard all the time. For every dollar white people have, blacks have 5.5 cents. Average credit scores. Now, I have a friend of mine, argues with me all the time when I tell him blacks have on average lower credit scores. He tells me, well, blacks want to pay their bills. Well, we do. But when you make less and you have an emergency, your car breaks down, you need something has to happen, and you make a family business decision to do that. And you may get a 30-day late, and it may lower your FICO score. When you have less and you make less, we have to make different decisions than you do when you're well-funded. You know, some of you guys have businesses that are relatively new. You make different business decisions than somebody who has a large bankroll in their business. And as a result, the FICO scores look different, and it would look just like you would in general. Asians are the highest FICO score on average people. Whites are next at 734, Hispanics 701, and blacks at 677. It's amazing that that follows income exactly. Why does that matter? Because now we get into access to credit. And the first thing we want to talk about is credit score. Okay, everybody's familiar with credit scoring, FICO scores, right? Well, we grade you based on your FICO score through automated underwriting. Automated underwriting gives the lender safe harbor. So when we run your DU or LP, your automated underwriting, when we get an approved eligible, there's less risk for us making the loan to you. So your FICO score is important in that area. Outdated scoring models, right now, Fannie Mae, FHFA requires that we use FICO 04. FICO Classic 04. There's newer models that are less restrictive and will give you higher scores than the old model that's being used, but this keeps the portfolio less risky. And then credit invisible borrowers. You ever notice how many payday lenders there are in our communities? You know, what's interesting about that is you go borrow money from them and pay it back on time, it doesn't go on your credit. But if you don't pay it, it's a collection. So it works double against us. Pricing. Conventional loan level price adjustments and private mortgage insurance. Pricing, what I call the poor pay more fee adjustment. Who's heard of loan level price adjustments? Anybody? Okay, let me give you a little quick background. Prior to 2008, if you got a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac approval, if you were approved, you got charged the same interest rate and the same cost as everybody else who got approved. But then we had the mortgage crash. Fannie and Freddie got in trouble, so they needed to increase their income because they needed a bailout. So we bailed them out $187 billion, right? $191 billion actually year to date. Well, the reality is that they've paid back $297 billion, $106 billion in profit to the federal government. So our contention is that we need to go back to the way it used to be, and everybody gets charged the same price for if they're approved for the loan. What they do now is risk-based pricing. Okay, what that means is if you have a lower FICO score, you pay more. If you have a higher FICO score, you pay less. So poor or the less wealthy subsidize the loans of the more wealthy. On this chart, if you're a Caucasian, a white person with a 734 FICO, your adjusted cost is 0.5%. If you're the average black borrower, your adjustment to the cost is 2.25%. So your cost is 1.75% higher than your white borrower. What does that really mean? It means that I'm a 734 FICO borrower with a half-point adjustment and a $300,000 sales price and a 5% down loan, $285,000 loan amount. The interest rate's going to be 3.75 when I did this. Gave me a payment of $1,259.97. For my same black borrower, same income, I'm going to have $300,000 sale price, $285 loan amount, 4.375 income. What's that mean? That means that the difference of $162 a month in payment being charged because your FICO score is different, $58,676 over the life loan that you pay for that same house. Valuation. You guys are familiar. How many of you have had low appraisals? Sell a house, get a low appraisal. You know that the Home Valuation Code of Conduct, that's the law or the rule that appraisers operate under. You can't order an appraisal from your local appraiser. So our appraisers, I don't know about here, but all of our appraisers in LA come from a neighborhood that's not familiar with our neighborhood. Matter of fact, they look at it and they're scared. They want to hurry up and get out, so they don't see no value in it. Our appraisals come in low in California. We have an escalating market with a low appraisal that seems impossible. It's because the appraisers are not familiar with our neighborhoods. Appraisal management, that's what came in place. We can't even rebut appraisals. We can't talk to the appraiser. We go through the appraisal management company. We get nowhere. So our deals either fall or the sellers have to take less money. Let me give you some statistics to back this up. United States total population, 327 million, 60% white, 18% Hispanic, 13% black, and 5.9% Asian. Total mortgages in the United States, 7,720,655. That's the total number of mortgages done last year in the United States, be they purchase, refinance, seconds, whatever they are. Okay, so whites got 5,091,185 loans, Hispanics 726,000, blacks 430,819, and Asians 399,740. The black denial rate nationwide is 31.14%, almost twice that of whites, 17.8%, and only 45.71% of blacks are approved that apply for a mortgage. What happens in your community when you don't get approved for a mortgage? Collective consciousness infects your whole community, and we find ourselves buying things that depreciate instead of appreciate. We go buy a car when we don't even want to try to buy a house because we don't want to be turned down. We're told it's too hard, but we want to see some success for our hard work. So we go buy us a car, a depreciating asset, as opposed to an appreciating asset. That's what happens when the approval rate is so low. Illinois, make it more local. 12 million total population, 741. For the state, population statistics almost mirror the United States. A few more blacks. 61% white, 17% Hispanic, 14.6% black, 5.9% Asian. Total mortgages in the state of Illinois last year, 260,472. Whites are 173,401. Hispanics, 27,980. Blacks, 15,401. And Asians, 13,939. Now, blacks are 14.6% of the population of the state, but only got 6% of the new mortgages. Our denial rate is 30.13%. Whites are 16.47%. And the black approval rate in the state of Illinois is 46%, less than half. Make it more local. Cook County, that's where we at, right? Population 5,180,000, White 42%, Hispanic 25%. The black population is coming up. 23.9%, 1,238,000 Asians, 7.9%. Total mortgages, 98,231. Whites, 52,212. Hispanics, 15,021. Blacks, 9,943. Asians, 7,393. Look, black population is 23.9%. White population is 42. We only got 9,943 loans. Our denial rate is 31.96% compared to 16.99% for whites. The approval rate is 43.74%, less than the state, less than the national. The percentage of blacks went up, the approval rate went down. Chicago, right here, right now. Total population, 2,705,994. White, 32.7% population. Black, 30.5%. Black population is much higher than the state, 14%, right? And Hispanic population, 29%. Asian, 6.2%. Total mortgages, 45,922. White, 22,149. Hispanic, 7,640. Black, 5,200. Asian, 3,331. The black denial rate is 33, almost 34%. The white denial rate is 15.3%. Black, 30.5% of the population, but received 11% of the new mortgages. With each increase in the concentration of black population, the denial rate went up and the approval rate went down. 13,190 black families applied for a mortgage in the city of Chicago. Only 5,200 were approved. That's a whole lot of failed transactions in the city of Chicago. 41.25%. That's the approval rate of a mortgage in Chicago for black people. Now, if you're black and you're working with black people, that means that you have a lot of failures in your daily transactions. That's what that means. A lot of loans fall out. A lot of people have their hearts broken. A lot of wealth gets lost in just broken hearts, failed transactions. So what do these statistics tell us? What does this tell us? It tells us, one, NAREB especially, we have to be advocates for risk. We cannot fall for the, I can't sell you a house because you might lose it. We can't fall for the, oh, you got a loan that you should have never got. We can't go for that because I think it's more racist to tell me that you're going to protect me from myself than giving me an opportunity to try and fail. We have to be advocates for risk. We spend too much time building barriers instead of bridges. I'm not a Dodd-Frank proponent. I think Dodd-Frank built a barrier, and I've seen home ownership, black home ownership, go down consistently since Dodd-Frank. With Dodd-Frank, something called the QM patch, QM, right? Quality. You got to have a FICO score, or not a FICO score, a debt-to-income ratio of 43% to be approved. Now, what people don't seem to realize is that there's something called the QM patch, which means that if you run DU and LP, that automated underwriting that goes by your FICO score, then you can go have debt ratios up to 50% for Fannie and Freddie and 55, 56 for FHA, right? What's not being talked about is the QM patch is getting ready to expire. And when the QM patch expires, that means that everybody's going to have to be at 43%. Who does that impact the most? People who have the less income and the less payment. That's the sort of policies that NAREB has to be at the table, and our partners and our friends should be at the table fighting for. We have to be risk advocates. Then we have to develop positive, assertive programs. and initiatives. Positive, assertive programs. You know what assertive for me is? A synonymous word for affirmative action. I know it's a bad word in a lot of places, but we need some affirmative programs to flip the table. You got a head start, I can't catch you unless you flip the table. We can't take public policy for granted. We can't take public policy for granted. We can't sit around and not vote. We can't not advocate. We can't act like it's just me and mine. We can't take public policy for granted. Maintenance status quo is the overwhelming social construct in this country, in the world actually, but maintenance of status quo is the overwhelming social construct. What it means, how it has been is how it's going to always be. My mother used to say, that's a lie from the pit. I always end with this. If you can't run, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that's what I came to tell you tonight, Chicago. At the end of the day, whatever color you are, black, white, Asian, or Hispanic, whatever we do, we have to keep moving forward. The one thing about this city is the demographics are almost evenly split. And there's an opportunity for this city that they say is the heart of black people in America. They say Harlem is the head. They say Chicago is the heart. There's an opportunity for this city to set the pace for what the rest of the country can see. There's an opportunity to be had, and I just want to encourage you to take that opportunity and run with it. Thank you.